Hi everyone, my name is Heather. I'm a nutritionist and a GAPS practitioner, and today I want to talk about histamine and histamine intolerance. So I feel particularly qualified to talk on this because I healed my husband's chronic, debilitating migraines and headaches. He had at least a headache, if not a migraine, every day for about 15 years. It wreaked havoc on our marriage and raising kids and our finances and everything because so much of the time he was in bed. It was seriously terrible. But through healing his gut, we restored the gut flora, healed the gut lining, stopped allergenic responses, and as a result, healed his histamine intolerance. And not only that, I've worked with tons of clients doing the GAPS diet to heal histamine intolerance, and I've seen nothing but awesome results. So I feel particularly called to talk about this because every client I have pretty much has a histamine issue, even if they don't know it. And I see a ton of information where people are talking about like, oh, you need this supplement or this thing, or go on a low histamine diet for the rest of your life. And I just don't see that as practical or realistic or a good option at all. I mean, if you want to take supplements all the time and have a severely limited diet and just kind of function that way, go for it. That might be better for you. But I'm all about healing, letting the body restore itself and recover, healing the root cause so that we don't have issues like this. If you've had histamine intolerance or you know someone who has or whatever, it's like there's so many symptoms. You can get migraines, you can have irritable bowel syndrome, you can have eczema, psoriasis, hay fever, like really bad allergies. There are seriously so many things associated with it. Insomnia, crazy moods, depression. So it's really serious and it's something that we need to address. And one thing I really want to make you understand, I'll probably say it a lot, is histamine. Your body producing histamine is a result of something. This is not a problem, your body producing histamine. The problem is there's something going on in your body that requires histamine. So if we can fix that, which I'm going to hopefully convince you is your gut flora, if we can fix that, then your body no longer needs to create histamine. Our body is extremely smart. It knows how to heal itself. It knows what needs to be done. So it's not just creating histamine for no reason so that you have this terrible, life sentence of problems. It's doing it for a reason. So some of the roles of histamines are they remove allergens. So like if you get a bee sting or something, or, hay fever, that is your body detoxing those allergens. It's a neurotransmitter, so it really helps with like focus, memory, that kind of thing. Stomach acid and motility helps food go through your body. Tissue repair is another one. So if there's any problems, it'll send histamine there to try to fix that. So most people who have histamine intolerances, as far as I know, have a compromised gut. They have an unhealthy gut, even if they don't know it. And I'm going to try to explain and convince you why that is. So when we have a healthy gut, we have these healthy bacteria in our gut lining. This is a mucosal lining, and they create little communities in there, and they live and they take our food and they digest it. They create enzymes, they create vitamins, they create hormones, they create neurotransmitters. They seriously do everything for us. They are like our little servants all in our gut doing all these amazing things for our body. And they protect our gut lining. So they protect it from food leaking into the bloodstream. We don't want our food particles that we're trying to eat. I don't care if it's gluten. I don't care if it's dairy. I don't care if it's a super hard to eat protein. We don't want it leaking into the bloodstream. So people are really quick to blame gluten and blame all these things. But often it's your microbiome. It's these happy little guys that are supposed to be sitting here creating colonies and doing all that good work for us and creating mucus and these beautiful biofilms to prevent foods from leaking into our bloodstream. They're not there. They're not being supported. Maybe your gut's been irritated from antibiotics, chlorine in the water, a processed food diet. There are really so many things, a lack of beneficial microbes in your diet, steroids, like everything. So when these guys start dying off from all that, they're not supported with probiotics, they're killed off with antibiotics, we start getting little holes in the gut lining. Not only do we get holes where there's irritation and inflammation, we also start getting overgrowth of pathogens like candida. So we'll just do a little sad face. These overgrowths of yeast start taking over and they start forming biofilms. They're not necessarily bad, but when they overproduce and when they create these permanent biofilms, they actually start stealing all the nutrition from our food. And rather than helping our body and creating all these things that we need, they can just do a lot of damage basically. So now we have all this food, we digest it, and we have a leaky gut and it's leaking into the bloodstream. And the inner layers of that, I'm making a total mess, I'm sorry. In the inner layers of that mucosal lining, that's where all of our immune cells live. And so when we start getting holes and things start leaking in there and leaking into the bloodstream, our immune cells start attacking it. It's called an IgE allergy. Um, so I don't care, like I said, I don't care if it's gluten, I don't care if it's lettuce, it can be the healthiest food in the world. If it's leaking into the bloodstream, your body sees it as a threat. It sees it as an allergen or sensitivity, and it starts attacking it because it shouldn't be there. So almost all the time, if you have food sensitivities, it is not necessarily the food. It is your gut lining, and the food is leaking past the gut lining and causing this inflammation and this immune response. So we have mast cells. And these are cells that are all throughout our body. They're mainly in like our mucosal membranes, our skin, our epithelial layers. Anywhere that comes into contact with the outside world has an abundance of mast cells. And it's for protection, where our nose, our eyes, our ears, our mouth, our skin, all of these things, anywhere where you can get a histamine response is typically a place where there's those mast cells. And they have IgE receptors on them. So sorry, we're getting a little bit sciencey, but I really want to like make it super clear that this is not a long-term thing. This is something you can heal and recover from. So we have these IgE receptors on our mast cells. So they detect whenever there's one of those allergies. So let's say we'll just say gluten, okay? Gluten has not been bad. You've been happy, you've eaten it your whole life, and then all of a sudden it's a problem. That's because it's leaking into the bloodstream. Your body's creating an immune system response to that. And now it's going, hey, that's an IgE allergy. And every time that gluten comes in, now it's binding to an IgE receptor because that IgE receptor is going, looking out for gluten and whatever else is irritating it. And it starts releasing histamine because histamine is a repair compound, okay? It has a ton of benefits. It's not just like there to piss you off and make your life miserable. It actually does tissue repair and removes allergens and all that. So we need it, okay? So all that to say, there's so much more I could go into, but the root problem of this histamine intolerance or the overproduction of histamine is not histamine. The problem is our leaky gut. The problem is a gut that is leaking and needing constant tissue repair and creating constant allergens in the body. So you're having all these allergic responses all the time and you don't even know it. And so your body's trying to calm it down by releasing all this histamine, okay? The histamine is not the problem, it's your gut. So by restoring this gut lining, healing and sealing the gut lining, and creating healthy biofilms that have that mucus, repairing that lining, now foods are no longer leaking into the bloodstream. So your immune system calms down. It no longer sees gluten or dairy or whatever as a threat. And now it just functions like normal and it doesn't release histamine all day, every day. It releases it when it's appropriate or when you get stung by a bee or, some sort of poison or, food poisoning or something. So all that to say, healing the gut is really essential for calming down histamine overproduction and removing histamine intolerance. Like I said, I've seen it work with my husband. I've seen it work on clients. It really is, histamine intolerance is a symptom of a leaky gut that does not have beneficial microbes in it. It's usually inflamed and there's so many things going on. So I hope that was helpful. This is going to be a 3-part series on histamine, and I'm going to try to give you specifically what you need to do because I'm not selling you any like pills that you need to take for your life or a specific diet you need to do forever. This is really like for those people who want healing of their histamine intolerance. It's possible. It's a bit of hard work, but it's totally doable. So stay tuned for part 2.